Hello and welcome to Friday Live. I am your host, Strata lawyer Amanda Farmer, and here we are on another Friday afternoon going out live to the Your Strata Property Facebook page. We're heading out to LinkedIn. We're going out to the Your Strata Property YouTube channel as well. It's lovely to be here with you on this Friday afternoon. Today we have a little more time than we had last week when we did our shorter Ask Amanda Now session. Generally, our Friday live sessions is an opportunity to go a little deeper on a particular topic that might be happening, that might be controversial, that might be front of mind for us in the Strata space at the moment. Sometimes I have a guest on Friday Live. Today, you got me. I am here with you, and we are going to be talking about an issue that has been front of mind seemingly for the Sydney media at the moment. Bit has been written about, spoken about our strata communities in the media the last few weeks. I'm going to be digging into that very, very soon. If you're coming on in live, and lots of you are here already, ready to tuck in, settle in for a strata chat this Friday afternoon, give me a hello here in the comments. David is here saying hi from Neutral Bay. How are you, David? Good to have you with us here on Friday Live. Shana, always nice to see you here from Coffs Harbour. Welcome, welcome. Hey, Cheryl. Lovely to see you. Thank you for the flowers and happy Friday to you as well. Now, Sean is here. He's coming to us today from Dulwich Hill, Cultural Centre of the Universe. I agree. I love Dulwich Hill. Sean, I'm glad that you're there enjoying that lovely part of Sydney. Very good to see you here live. Once again, feel free to drop me a hello. Let me know what you're up to, where you are today. I always like to know who we have here. We've got our regulars, of course. Anyone new tuning into Friday Live, to our Facebook page, one of these live sessions for the first time, I would love to know that you're here as well. If you're coming in from LinkedIn or YouTube, perhaps, let me know. And of course, if you are catching the replay, as I know many of you, hundreds of you, apparently, Facebook tells me, do you catch the replay, then a special hello to you too. I would love to know that you're here catching the replay. Hey, Michelle, who is tuning in from Sydney. Great to have you here with us. I am not in Sydney City today. I am at home in my Mudgee home, my country home, I often call it, here in Central West New South Wales. Mudgee is the place that I tend to call home these days. And I had a really early morning this morning. I was up just before 5 a.m. Actually, I confess, my husband was getting me up out of bed just before 5 a.m. because we had a special adventure planned. Now, this was an adventure that had been planned for some weeks, actually, since my birthday. Had a special birthday a few weeks ago and had this adventure planned for that weekend. It didn't happen because of the weather. It was rescheduled. It didn't happen the second time because of the weather. But this morning, early this morning, third time lucky, it happened. What did we do? We went hot air ballooning. Has been on my bucket list for some time to go up in one of those, yes, 18th century, I believe it is, devices, a hot air balloon, and to see the sights of our beautiful country. And we did that very early this morning, very cold here in Mudgee at that time of the morning. And it was just lovely to share that with my husband and our little 10-year-old boy. We had so much fun, got some great shots, got some great video as well. I might even put something together to share with you here on the page over the weekend. Sean saying, wow, was it scary? I didn't find it scary at all. I did have a little boy next to me. They're jumping up and down going, I'm cold, Mum, I'm cold. And I thought, no, you're not cold. You're a little bit nervous. For some who may be afraid of heights, maybe not quite the option, the adventure activity that you might choose. But I don't have a problem with heights. Often fly around on small planes. So it was just a fabulous experience to be up there, very peaceful, and a great way to admire, as I said, our beautiful country and to see this town, this cool town from that angle and to see the sunrise as well. So That was a whole heap of fun. If anybody's done that before, I'd love to hear from you. I know a special shout out to Balloon Aloft, who runs these activities. I know they run it in the Hunter Valley as well. And some of you have been touring the wine countries, Hunter Valley, or whether you've come to visit Mudgee, may have tried your hand at hot air ballooning. But yes, definitely something that's been on the list for a long time. And with a special birthday a few weeks ago, I decided I would tick that one off. But the weather has to be just right. No wind, almost no wind, and of course no bad weather, not too cloudy and foggy. So third time lucky, we were able to get ourselves onto the contraption that is the hot air balloon. Michelle saying, sounds fabulous. Look forward to the landscape shots. Yeah, I'll share some with you here over the weekend. Megan is tuning in here in the Bigger Valley, the second cultural centre of the universe. Bigger Valley vying with Dulwich Hill there. Sean, what do you reckon? Yep, I think there might be a good competitor there. Welcome, Megan. Good to see you. Danielle is here, catching me live from a coffee shop. Great. Love the way that we fit in our Friday lives wherever we may be. Kirsty is here saying, hello, Amanda, joining you from Perth. Happy Friday. Hey, Kirsty, and I can see you're joining us from LinkedIn as well, so welcome. I just slowed down with your name there to make sure you weren't a Christy, you're a Kirsty. Lovely to have you here joining us. Excellent. And Michael Darby, hey, good to see you. Great to pop in, Amanda. Great to have you here with us, Michael. Welcome. Excellent. All right, coming in. Give me a hello. I'll swing back around. Sean's agreeing that bigger is beautiful there, Megan. So you have some acquiescence there from Sean, I think. Happy Friday to you too, Ronnie, coming on in via Facebook. Excellent. Now, this week's podcast episode number 372, was all about cybersecurity. Tom Buckley from Strata IT was my guest, and he was explaining why our Strata managers would do well to have specialized IT support. He also shared how you could secure yourself against a $100,000 mistake. He actually shared a case study that he'd been working with a client who had lost a significant sum of money, and that figure, $100,000, was shared because of essentially being scammed, and their cyber insurance or cyber fraud insurance policy didn't cover them because they didn't have the right procedures in place in their office to be able to ensure that their insurance would respond. So they had told their insurer that they were doing all of these wonderful things within their office to be able to protect themselves. And when they went to make a claim, the insurer said, I thought you were doing all of these wonderful things. You're not. So we can't cover you. So really important warning there from Tom. And I thought it was interesting the way that Tom was explaining. We hear about the Medibanks, we hear about the Optuses, and it may give us a false sense of security as small business owners that this will never happen to us. But it is absolutely happening to businesses out there. It is happening to Strata businesses out there for sure. Some of you will absolutely have experienced that, perhaps, whether that's firsthand or be hearing about that happening in the industry. I'm hearing about it from colleagues. As lawyers, we've talked about this some years ago at a Strata Lawyers conference that I attended, I think a couple of years running. We've talked about it, how we protect ourselves and our clients from this type of fraud incidents, and how we make sure that our security is up to scratch. So just because you might not hear about it publicly, unlike publicly listed companies, we are not, as small businesses, required to disclose when something like this happens. It doesn't mean that it's not out there and it's not happening. So a few of you already reached out to me after listening to that episode and said, I'm so glad that you're doing an episode on this topic. We've been talking about all sorts of other things in Strata. No one seems to be talking about cybersecurity anymore, but we really do need to refocus on that. So if you haven't caught that episode with Tom, episode 372, the team has a link here for you to head on over and check it out. The transcript is there for you as well, if you would rather read that one than listen to it. And Tom's details to get in touch with him and his team at Strata IT are there in the show notes for you as well. I'm seeing Tom Buckley come on in here now from LinkedIn. Hey, Tom, great to have you with us, saying thanks for discussing this important topic of cyber. Yeah, and I know, Tom, when we were chatting, I said, we've only just scratched the surface, and there were so many things just in my own business that Tom was triggering in my mind. Oh, better check that. am I doing that? Am I getting that right? And Tom is someone I absolutely need to talk to separately, as I'm sure many of you feel that too after listening to that episode, and make sure that we're ticking these things off. Tom mentioned in the episode that our owners, our Strata owners, are getting smarter. I often say that here on the platforms, not just about Strata law, but about cybersecurity as well. And they're asking Strata managers questions. How are you protecting my personal information? Who else has access to this? How can someone else get access to this? I too am being asked those questions by clients of mine. Amanda, is this link secure? If I can access this folder through the cloud, can others access my personal information? What are you doing to make sure that all of this is secure? And so we want to be not just responsive to that, but we want to be on the front foot about that with our clients as well, to be able to continue providing that top level service that I know those of us who are business owners here in this space really want to be providing for our clients. So good topic, good episode. Go and have a listen to it. Nice to see you here, Tom. Thank you for joining us. Charbel is also joining us from Beirut, Lebanon. Okay, welcome, Charbel. Hopefully we have some topics of interest here for you on the Your Strata Property Friday live session. Megan saying, just caught up on the cybersecurity podcast. I'm interested in cyber insurance. Hadn't heard of it before. And if this is something that owners corporations can take out, or is it a business product? Oh, I really like that question, Megan. Yes, so cyber insurance, that was something that I know we've spoken about as lawyers at our lawyer conferences, and been alerted to the fact that cyber insurance is a specific product. So you might think that you're covered by your general business insurance, but you're not. Cyber insurance is something that you do need to have a look at getting specific cover for. So it should be something that I would think our strata management companies want to make sure that they're covered for. In terms of our owners corporations, I suppose you'd be thinking about where your data is stored and who is storing that data. If it's all with the strata manager, and the strata manager is then the custodian of those records, what processes do they have in place, and what insurance might they have? Whether you would need it as an owners corporation if you're not managing your own infrastructure and tech infrastructure and platforms, I don't know. But it's certainly something that's a good idea to get some proper advice on if you're an owners corporation wanting to cover off this risk for sure. Shana's coming back to our hot air ballooning, which I did this morning, and letting me know that a friend of hers ran a hot air balloon business in Coffs Harbour. So I've been privileged to have many free rides and then help pack it all up. Well, let me tell you, I did not have a free ride, worth every penny, but not cheap, I'll tell you that. And I also helped pack it up. They have a fabulous system, these companies that run this, with the limited staff that they need to be able to run their operation, and then getting many hands making light work when it comes time to pack things up, which is a whole lot of fun as well, and keeps you warm on a chilly winter's morning. So enjoyed doing that this morning as well. All right. Tom's weighing in on the Strata cyber insurance question, I think, from Megan, saying owners corporations should generally ask their Strata manager what data and cyber protection is in place and what insurance do they have in place. So great first step there that Tom is sharing with us in response to Megan. Thank you very much for raising that, Megan, and being there for us, Tom. Michelle says, it's also thanks to you, Amanda, that we are getting smarter about strata management and other things. Yes, thank you very much, Michelle, for that. Sometimes when I say owners are getting smart, they're getting savvy. Sorry about that, strata managers. Yes, you're clever cookies. I'd usually call you, who are tuning in here to Friday Live, to the podcast. Those of you who are members in my community, you're absolutely the ones who are asking the hard questions and making sure that your strata managers and your strata lawyers are up to scratch, upholding those high standards that you demand. Fair enough. All right. So I said earlier that there has been a lot of media chatter about strata over the last couple of weeks, about various different topics. And I really get happy when strata is in the media, even if the articles out there might be critical of what's going on in our space. If there's a conversation happening, whether I may agree with those comments or not, I think it is a really good sign that journalists are interested in what we're doing, that they're talking to industry representatives, that they're trying to understand the story. Amber Schultz in the Sydney Morning Herald wrote a number of articles, 2 or 3 articles over the last couple of weeks. And I happened to be lucky enough to have a chat with her as well. And she was saying, Amanda, I just keep on covering more and more about Strata. It's sort of this Pandora's box. Once I've opened it now on a particular topic, there's so much more that I'm being asked to write about, that I'm being contacted about. So we may be seeing some more articles come from Amber as well. And I think it's a great thing. I really do, that we're talking about Strata and giving it the attention that it needs and the attention that it deserves. So this past couple of weeks, we've seen articles about dodgy developers, always in the news. Our building commissioner, David Chandler, doing a good job there, shining a light on those poor practices. An opinion piece in the Sydney Morning Herald by David Chandler within the last week. We have also seen articles about the record high numbers of mediation applications before fair trading, New South Wales fair trading, and the resulting backlog. That was one of Amber's articles. And we've seen articles questioning the role and the skills of our volunteer Strata committee members. So Amber Schultz in the Sydney Morning Herald writing about that issue, and also Jimmy Thompson in the Australian Financial Review. And Jimmy being, I call him a friend and a colleague of mine, a regular commentator on Strata, and certainly a previous guest here on Live and on the podcast. He writes weekly about Strata in the Australian Financial Review. I think we're lucky to have his view of things in our media. But what I want to do now is take you over to part of Jimmy's latest article. I think this one was only published yesterday, so you might not have seen it yet. I've got a copy of it here on my screen for you, I believe. Yep. It is behind a paywall, so I have, and I do subscribe to the Australian Financial Review, so I haven't hacked the system. I mostly subscribe to be able to read Jimmy's column, I have to tell you. So I won't show you the whole thing. We do have a link here for you, and you may be able to read part of it through that link. Is it worth paying the volunteers on your apartment committee? Now, I acknowledge that Jimmy's used the word apartment there in the headline, and that's because, as we learn, as those who communicate with the media, they don't really like the word strata. If I say strata on a radio program, sometimes if I say strata in a podcast, people aren't quite catching what we mean when we say strata. So it's often a good idea to use the words apartment. People tend to understand the word body corporate a little bit more. So when I'm speaking, you'll often hear me say strata or body corporate, owners corporation or body corporate. I'm trying to get the terminology in there, but we start from a place that people generally understand what apartments are, but may not understand what strata is. So some are arguing, says Jimmy, for paying a little more in your levies to have trained office bearers rather than untrained amateurs making big buck decisions. Now, this is what I want to have a closer look at here on Live today, and maybe a little debate with you about. So get ready, get that comments box open, whether you're on LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube, and let me know what you think. Jimmy says there's been a lot of chat in the stratosphere recently about whether untrained volunteers should be expected, as they are, to manage the finances of multi-unit apartment complexes with $1 million plus budgets. However, calls for committee members and especially office bearers, so that's our secretary, our treasurer, our chairperson, to be trained has also led to suggestions that maybe they should be paid. Should you be comfortable with the value of your home or investment being subject to decisions made by people who have power and influence merely by dint of having put their hands up at an annual general meeting? And if not, how much would you be prepared to pay for the work that they do? Now, Jimmy's right. He says here that strata law in most states allows committee members to be compensated retrospectively for the work that they have done in the previous year. In New South Wales, the relevant legislation is in section 46, I think it is. I think I've got a copy of it here on my other screen. Yes, section 46 of our Strata Schemes Management Act in New South Wales. There's a link here for you if you haven't heard of this concept of being able to pay Strata committee members for the service that they offer to an owners corporation. Have a look if you're in New South Wales at section 46. This is often referred to as an honorarium, so a payment for these otherwise volunteer services that are being carried out by our committee members. And section 46 says that an owners corporation can pay to an office bearer or to any other member of the Strata committee an amount that is determined by the owners corporation at an annual general meeting in recognition of the services performed by the person for the owners corporation in the period since the last general meeting. So as Jimmy says, it is compensation retrospectively for work that has been done in the previous year. My experience is that honorariums, as we call them, are not all that common. Strata managers, let me know what you think. I'm not seeing interacting with as many buildings as you would be on a day-to-day basis. We don't pay honorariums in my community. Strata committee members are not paid, at least not in the lifetime of my committee service or my ownership even, that I've been aware of. No honorariums paid. I'd be very interested if you're a committee member being paid, if you're willing to let us know how much perhaps you're being paid, and if you're a strata manager, what are you seeing? Are there communities where committee members are being paid? Is it $5,000 a year? Is it $10,000 a year? Is it more than that? Is it less than that? Why is that decision being made, and how is it being received by other owners, by other committee members, and the committee members themselves? You'll see in Jimmy's article, he goes on to talk about a scheme where there is a committee member who is being paid apparently on demand by that committee member. So that's probably not the kind of situation where we want to see our committee members being paid simply because they demand to, as a bit of a ransom for their services. As you can see on your screen here, I think it's this paragraph, Jimmy's saying few take advantage of this. Or few take advantage of actually receiving the honorarium. At the other end of the scale, some committee chairs, often lawyers, says Jimmy, charge their strata schemes a consultancy fee for advice given, purportedly aside from their work on the committee. That's interesting. And Jimmy might reach out to me to give me a bit more information about that one. That's not something that I have heard of, and I would be incredibly cautious as a strata lawyer providing any kind of legal advice, free or otherwise, to my owners corporation, to my fellow strata committee members. And indeed, it is something that I'm very upfront with the committee, with my committee, and with other owners that I do not do, because I think it can get you into a very sticky situation. It's hard to win that one if you're providing free legal advice, if you're then criticized for that advice, if things don't turn out quite the way that they should have. And then if you're providing advice that you're then being paid for, I think there'd be a real question there about also being an owner in the building, and there being questions about whether there is a apparent conflict of interest in you acting in that position and being paid by your own community. So I find it hard to think of a situation, maybe the provision of a simple bylaw. Even then, I've been asked for that from my community before, and I certainly haven't had them engage me to provide bylaws or even to do bylaw registrations. So it's a really sticky area that I would think as lawyers, also acting as committee members, we'd want to stay away from. Colin, I wonder if Colin posting here on Facebook is addressing this question. Colin says, "Hi, Amanda, do you provide free legal advice to your strata, different to attending and participating?" Yeah, so the answer is no. The answer is no, I don't, Colin. And sometimes when I'm asked for that, I do say that that wouldn't be appropriate, and that it's not my role as the secretary of the committee to be providing legal advice, free or otherwise. Horses for courses. In some cases, that might be appropriate. In others, I think you just stay away from it. So I won't show you the rest of Jimmy's article. You can go and have a look at that one and have a read through it yourself and see some more of Jimmy's conclusions there. But what I am interested in is your views. There's lots of you here live today, and if you are feeling up to it, please do share with me your views. I am going to share with you my views on this question of payment. Set aside the fact that I'm a strata lawyer for now. This question of whether committee members generally, whatever your skill set may be, should be paid, and whether that might solve this perceived problem that we have, that some committees are underperforming, are not delivering, are not fulfilling their obligations, are in communities that are dysfunctional, in communities that are not complying with the law and are letting their communities down. Is a payment for services, is the establishment of a professional strata committee member role going to solve that issue? Now, while you get your thoughts together, I can see there's a few comments over there already. I'll come over to those. While you get your thoughts together, I want to share with you something that I mentioned in my email that went out this afternoon, a post from a fellow strata lawyer that had essentially gone viral. I'm going to say gone viral from a lawyer's perspective, a LinkedIn lawyer's perspective. This is the post here on the screen. It has been shared publicly by Christopher Kieran, who is the legal practitioner director at Kieran Benson Lawyers, a colleague of mine. And I'll just scroll up to the text in the post. Chris has said, further to my post earlier this week about the thankless task it is to be a strata committee executive committee member, I saw this plaque in Bondi Junction this morning. In the many years of working in strata, I've never seen this before. Has anyone else seen such a memorial? So Chris refers to it as a memorial. In honour of the memory of Dr. Michael Hafer, whose dedicated and long service as chairman of the Owners Corporation of this building from 1994 to 2021 will always be remembered with the utmost gratitude and appreciation. And I'll keep scrolling down so you can see how much attention this has received on LinkedIn. And what I do want to show you is some of these comments here. So Chris Duggan, who is the president of Strata Community Association Australia, is saying what a wonderful acknowledgement by those owners of the service of their chair. I agree, Chris Kieran. Have not seen these previously, but would love to in the future. And I think it might be Chris himself here, who I won't read out his whole comment, but he said, do you think SCA might run a competition for strata managers to send in the best acknowledgements they've seen for service by committee members? It might go some way to begin to create a culture of appreciation for work that's done by committee members. Yeah, really interesting. And I wonder if maybe the OCN, our Owners Corporation network, might be another or the other body to be recognizing our hardworking committee members, maybe with an awards ceremony, a voting process. I think that would be pretty cool. So I'm just going to float that one there. I know there might be some OCN reps or those connected with OCN or OCN members who are tuning in today who might be able to pass on their thoughts to OCN about that. So John said he's seen this before. We had a commemorative bench for a beloved building manager and his wife who have been on site for 20 plus years. It's lovely to see the appreciation. And Brent Clark from Whatblock has posted an example of a similar plaque from Waverton. I won't click through to that, but I imagine that has those similar sentiments. Karen Stiles, there she is from the Owners Corporation Network. Astonishing, Chris Kieran, but it shouldn't be. The work of tireless committee members working for the interests of all owners is unremarked. How sad. Such an important voluntary role. Yeah, it's certainly not something that I have seen before. I'll be on the lookout, however, for these types of plaques in the future. Cassandra McLean from Vantage Strata, what a beautiful gesture. I've never seen this before, and this Owners Corporation should be commended for such lovely recognition. It's really touching. And look at this. Thank you for sharing this, Chris. What a community that you'd like to be a part of. I got to put my marketer's hat on here and think, well, you know, if I was walking past that building and there was a property for sale, or I was thinking about purchasing in that building rather than the other that's next door, that's then next door, that's next door, because if you know Bondi Junction, you know that it's full of tower blocks. Which one would I be choosing? The one that has clearly had excellent management in the past from a very dedicated chairperson who's been recognized for their dedication and publicly so, or the one where we may not know how committee members are thought of or treated in the community. And there's Megan, and I know you're here today as well. Megan, what a beautiful gesture. This is such a great movement. And look, I'm not the only one who's been talking about this. Rena and I speak about this on the podcast, or we did predict in the future there. We spoke about it in our recording very recently, and you'll hear us speak about it in the future. We've been talking about it. I think the OCN definitely has been speaking about it with its members as well. Andrew's saying it's such a chore to sit on a strata committee and engage appropriately. It can be for everyone, but also needs people to divorce themselves from their individual priorities, which is very hard. And I know Jimmy speaks about that in his article as well, that sometimes committee members, and I know there's lots of comments over there. I'll see if anyone's raised this. Sometimes committee members are putting their hands up because they're self-interested and they have their own agenda to push. They have, as Andrew says, their individual priorities and may not have the best interests of the community at heart. So when we do see committee members who are not like that, who do have the best interests of the community at heart, it's great to see them recognized. So lots more comments there under that post. You can go over and connect with Chris Kieran. I do recommend that. Often sharing some gems over there on LinkedIn. And thank you, Chris, for sharing that one. When I sent my email out this afternoon, letting you all know that I was going to be talking about this topic today and mentioning this plaque, I did receive a private message from somebody who shall remain anonymous, who let me know that they were actually an acquaintance of Dr. Michael, and that he was indeed a pediatrician and a children's hearing specialist. And the person who contacted me wasn't connected to the Strata building, but did say that Mike, as he referred to him, was a lovely guy and he was liked by everybody in the group. He was a very caring person, the sort of person that you'd like to have as you or your child's doctor. And it didn't surprise this person who reached out to me that the people who had dealt with him within his Strata community would put up a plaque for him. So that's wonderful to be able to be speaking about this and to be recognizing Dr. Michael Heifer's actions. So how do we get committee members like Dr. Michael? Okay. Do we pay them? Is that the solution? Is that how we're going to get them putting their hands up and contributing to our communities? I'm going to wade over into these comments here. I'll put this one up at risk of it being a little bit large, David, but we'll see how we go. Amanda, the two buildings I've been involved in over the last decade, one commercial, one residential, both pay honoraria to the committees. This started several years ago in the commercial building when the demands just exceeded what was reasonable. We introduced it in the residential for the same reason. The amount has varied from $250 per person for members who just come to meetings up to $2,000 for a very active member. Fascinating. $250 just for turning up to a meeting? Fair enough. And David saying, I can talk on this at length. Excellent. Okay. We might need to have a podcast chat, David. I know there's a few great things that go on in your community, so it might be time, if you're up for it, to have a chat about it. Steph is saying, my committee couldn't manage its way out of a paper bag, let alone a multi-million-dollar building. Yes. Well, I hope you have a professional strata manager, Steph, who might be helping with the obligations of that multi-million-dollar building if you haven't got the committee there able to provide the required guidance. Danielle's saying, do you insist that they educate themselves accordingly and how? Yep, good question. And it's something, Danielle, that has comes up regularly. You know, should our committee members be required to do a course? Should our committee members be required to do some form of continuing education, as our strata managers do, as strata lawyers do, continuing professional development hours? Got to do our 10 hours or more per year to keep up to date. The argument in response to that has commonly been, well, goodness, if you're going to require volunteers who aren't being paid anyway to do this job to then put in hours to get themselves educated, then we're just not going to have anybody putting their hand up to sit on the committee. More comments here from David. We set a high standard for committee members and aren't shy about voting people off if they don't participate. All the members are professionals. Most of them run their own businesses. Yep, often useful, helpful people to have on committees, those who are running businesses. Ask a busy person if you want something done, right? There's a reason we have that saying. Wendy is letting us know about highs and lows that have been experienced, challenges over 46 years, chair of 2 strata properties. My reward is a happy, respectful community and a desirable place to live for all, achieved through education, knowledge of strata law, open, transparent, regular communication, timely maintenance and upgrades, and working effectively with the manager. I do not expect payment, but do receive an honorarium said to be not commensurate with the time and effort put in. Yes, I'm really glad that you said that, Wendy, because um, when it comes to where I come down on honoraria and whether these should be paid to our committee members, I think if you're looking at as a money for time exercise or compensation for the work done, it's just never going to cover it. I think in some buildings, there are committee members who are doing tens of thousands, if not in some years, depending on what's going on, depending on how else their time might otherwise be spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of work for their community. So uh, I think the hours that are put in by some committee members, it is just never going to be covered by any amount of money that owners would be able or be comfortable to contribute. But if money is a way to recognize, if it's an easy way for a community to show their appreciation and their recognition for work that a committee member is doing, perhaps as an alternative to putting up plaques or doing other things like that, then a community might decide to go for it. It sounds like, Wendy, that's what your community is doing. You're saying that what I'm being paid is not at all commensurate with what I'm doing, nor do I expect to be paid, but I am paid. Whether that's a, I'm not sure if you said it was a small amount, but I assume that it is. I am being paid, and that's something that may make other owners feel good, and on some level may help you feel that you're recognized for the work that you do. And I'd say that's not a bad thing. Paying honoraria, I think, is only one way that we can be recognizing our committee members, our good, long-serving, effective committee members, and it might not, in all circumstances, be the most effective way. So from my experience, I can only speak to why I serve on my committee, and you might imagine that being a strata lawyer, being across what goes on, my community runs very smoothly. Everything's great. It's all easy. It's all a walk in the park. No, sometimes it is that way. Sometimes it feels that way. But just like everybody else, we have our fair share of dramas. We have our ups and downs. So there is certainly hours of work per week that I put into being a committee member on my committee. Why do I do it? Primarily, I want to preserve the value of my investment. That's straight up, fessing up. That's why I do it. In that way, I have a financial interest in serving on my committee. I want to have a seat at the table when decisions are being made that might increase or might decrease the value of my investment, or might require me to contribute more money or less money to the building's coffers. So I want to be involved in that conversation. And because I have my knowledge and expertise as a strata lawyer, I recognize how important that seat, having that seat at the table, is for me and for my family and for the value of our investment. And I know that big decisions legally can be made at committee level, and I want to be part of making those making those decisions at the committee level. Yes, I do have special skills as a strata lawyer, and those are something that I do want to contribute to my community. I'm lucky to be in a profession that you can make a good living from providing professional advice. And I'm at a stage in my career, having established my authority, that I can pick and choose who I act for, what work I do, what rate I might be charging. And I feel it incumbent upon me to have been lucky enough to have got to that position and that stage in life, that where I can do some giving back, then I can do that at the level of my strata committee. And that doesn't mean, as I said earlier, providing legal advice or providing free legal advice, but being there as a committee member and fulfilling those functions as a committee member, and specifically committee secretary. So I made a decision moving into my most recent strata community that I would put my hand up and say, just by the way, I'd like to be on the committee, and I do happen to be a strata lawyer. So I do have some knowledge of how things work, and definitely the fellow committee members at the time did welcome me with open arms. But I know some strata lawyers who say, no, I wouldn't fess up. I wouldn't fess up, Amanda. I wouldn't be telling them that I'm a strata lawyer because I really don't want to have that burden. Not the way that my mind works, for better or for worse. Now, I also do it because I feel good when I contribute to my community. Now, the building that I'm thinking of is not one that I live in right now, but I did live in it for many years and I probably will again in the future. I like my neighbors. I like seeing them around the building. I like being able to have somebody close by to rely on, and they rely on me should any of us need something. I enjoy completing projects with them. I enjoy achieving goals with them. I like helping them to get things right. And getting things right and increasing the value of my investment, as I said earlier, means that I'm also increasing the value of their investment. And that also makes me feel good. And I think that can be a missing piece when you compare strata ownership with ownership in a freestanding property. You may improve the value of your home or your investment in a freestanding house. You're the only one involved in that project. You don't have that same community-wide benefit where you might be doing something, solving a problem, avoiding a problem that is for everyone's benefit. You really do get that good feeling that you've done that as a group and for the benefit of the whole. And I think that you may find, I'll go and look at those comments and see if anybody's agreeing with me here, but you may find that those who do serve on their strata committees successfully, effectively, as committee members, have these kinds of reasons at heart. And some of these reasons are self-interested. They are increasing the value of my investment, making sure that my money is going to the right place, making sure that the law is being complied with as it should be, bringing that special skill to be able to make sure laws are being complied with so that I don't have a headache down the track as an owner or a big bill or a big litigation bill necessarily to pay. Those reasons are all can be classified as being self-interested. But because of the nature of community living, it's a good type of self-interest because it's the type of self-interest that is aligned with the best interests of the community. Everyone in the community should have these kinds of interests at heart, wanting to protect their investment, wanting to improve their investment, wanting to make sure that the community runs smoothly. So those are the reasons why I act as a committee member. I expect some of that may resonate with some of you who are acting as committee members. I can't see that a payment for service of any kind would motivate me. If it was a payment that would completely subsidize or replace is the word somebody's income and this became their full-time job, okay, that might be a different thing. But I can't see that happening in our space anytime in the future. Heading over to those comments to check in on where you're at with this discussion. Steph is saying, I'm an accountant doing cash flow forecasting for our owners corporation, chasing quotes, cajoling reluctant committee members into voting on matters. I feel like I'm herding kittens half the time. And the committee is definitely underskilled. I did ask earlier, Steph, if you had a strata manager. I'll be interested to know. I'm not seeing you point that out yet. Do you have a strata manager, or are you self-managed? And is this why you may be very hands-on in your community? David saying, I feel your pain, Steph. Yeah, David doing some of the similar things. And David, I just want to be clear. That's David Whitehouse saying, I feel your pain. And David Glover, I'm bringing you back here, David. I knew this, and I was wondering if you were going to mention this. David saying we are entirely self-managed. To ensure we're doing it properly, we subscribe to Your Strata Property. Thank you, David. I've done the base level strata management TAFE course. Wow, we engage external experts as needed. Yeah, your community is fascinating, David. So I think we do have to have a chat about this. Happy to have a podcast chat. Excellent. $250 for a year of meetings you're paying committee members. So that's committee members who just turn up to meetings. They get $250 if they come to meetings and don't do much more. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. And does that get people putting their hands up to be on the committee? I'd like to know. Megan's going to check in with you. That's great, David. Do connect with Megan. Sean is saying, our committee are given an honorarium. I like the different rates for the more active members. But who decides? And is this discussed at the AGM when the honoraria are granted? Yeah, I think perhaps as a matter of compliance with Section 46, you'd need to be clear on that, wouldn't you, Sean? If Section 46 is requiring the owners corporation, the owners at a general meeting, to approve these payments, if you have a community that wants to provide different types of payments, different levels of payments, you probably have to be clear about how all that's structured. David might have some draft motions for us. We'll see. Jeff is congratulating Wendy. Yes, indeed. Well done, Wendy. I know a little bit about your community, Wendy. I know we've communicated previously, and I know all the hard work that you do there. Olivia's saying, I'd love to be recognised for my work. Honorary being afterwards where people can make their judgment, commendation on their actions. But if I made that motion, I would feel uncomfortable as I'm on the committee and it would look self-serving. Yeah, I think you're right, Olivia. I don't think as committee members we can, in good conscience or without criticism, be asking for remuneration or specific types of recognition. I think it's something that needs to flow naturally from those who are recognizing you. And it might be a neighbor or it might be a friend that you have in the community who is seeing what you're doing and then making that suggestion on that point. If you are tuning in and you are not a committee member, or you have fellow committee members who you think are doing a fabulous job, suggesting that they be recognised, suggesting that the committee in your community be recognised, even if you're not on it, is a lovely way, a lovely step in the right direction, and a lovely way to be recognising those members in situations where don't feel comfortable putting their hand up to recognise themselves, perhaps. Colin's saying the reality is Strata is a business. Money in, money out, management staff, relationships, not a place for gooders. Sorry. Yeah. It's an interesting way to look at it, Colin. I think naturally you're going to get people who enjoy giving their time and doing what's good for their community. In assessing my reasons why I do what I do, I want to be very clear about recognizing I want to make sure my building's on the right track so we don't get into trouble, because I recognize that trouble is then going to end up being a headache for me as an owner. So that's really what drives me. And in the process, I enjoy the work that I do with my neighbors. Your point, Colin, really goes to, should we have professional committee members? Should we be running these operations like a business? Some owners that I've spoken to have said, we have professional board members. There should be some role for bring in a professional committee member, and that is their job. That is their entire income for the year. This is what we do. We come in and we run your committee. My answer to that is, isn't that the role of the strata manager? Isn't that what a strata manager is intended to be? Some communities tell me that they're few, I can count them on a couple of fingers, but some tell me that they have delegated all of their committee functions to their strata manager, and quite expressly so, and said that they don't want to even be making decisions, hand it all over to a trusted strata manager. In New South Wales, we can actually do that. That model is available to you. But you'd have to have a damn good strata manager who you really did trust at a committee level, that is. There will be some decisions that absolutely still have to be made by the owners at a general meeting. But you can have that kind of arrangement with a trusted strata manager. I'm not sure that it's going to work for most, but that is because I think our strata managers still have a long way to go until they are at the level of professionalism and in that professional role that they're really striving for and trying to be at. And that goes to qualifications and education and training for our strata managers, degree courses for our strata managers, if they're going to be put in that highly trusted, as we've heard recently, fiduciary position and relationship to be able to run these buildings without any input from owners. Then I think there's more work to do there in really upskilling and getting our strata managers ready for that. But the option is there. The option is there for that to happen. A bit of discussion going on there in the chat. Danielle is saying, agree with you, Amanda. It's the only reason I get involved, to protect my investment value. Have learnt some valuable lessons along the way. Buy in the right building. Yeah, that's a good start. That's definitely a good start to know which building to buy in the right building. Yeah. David's saying, yes, it's discussed at the AGM. So how your honoraria work, we put it on the agenda with a figure and the committee members who are getting an honorarium, not necessarily all, we work this out in committee, leave the meeting and hand the chair over to others so it can be freely discussed. Right. Sounds a bit like utopia at your place, David. I'm imagining it's a very calm AGM. David saying, I hasten to add the dollars end up in the order of $10 to $20 per hour, not to make a living. It's more about tangible recognition. Yes, it helps hold committee members accountable as well. Yep. Don't get your money if you don't go to a meeting. Don't go to all the meetings or a certain number of meetings. Philip, I can see your comment there. We have a 10-hour-a-week building manager. He's not across the technical staff. As I'm an engineer, I've chosen to augment the running of the building and have asked for and received an honorarium that is the equivalent of my strata levies. In my case, around $5,000. If I were to charge myself out on an hourly basis, it would be around $25,000 at just $50 an hour. Yeah, fascinating. I've heard that before, Philip. Might have come through you. Credit on the strata levies or tying the honorarium to what the strata levies are so that there is some measurable way of calculating this amount. So interesting. Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind that. That's the thing, coming up with a figure and why do we have that figure? So referring it to your strata levies could be a good idea. All right, lots more comments there. I do just want to acknowledge a note that I received in my inbox just a couple of hours before going live. And the note's from Bruce. I know he doesn't mind me mentioning his name. He had a comment about paying Strata committee members. And Bruce says that he's always thought that it is a fraught issue. While Strata committee service remains voluntary, says Bruce, most residents seem to take a forgiving attitude along the lines of, well, they're doing their best. What can you expect from volunteers? Once committee members are paid, thinks Bruce, even just a small amount, $500, let alone $5,000, it may be that those same people would start to say, hang on, we're paying you. Why aren't you getting this right? Why did you make this mistake? You're being paid. You should have. And that might lead to poor community relations. Really interesting point. Not sure that I'd seen that one raised before. Those of you, Philip, David, who are paying honoraria to your committee members, is that a thing? Does that then come up that owners will say, committee, you should have got this right. You're being paid. There is now a higher standard that you then have to meet. Bruce, in his note to me, was also questioning whether it could lead to disputes between committee members, especially if they were all paid the same amount and someone finds out we're all paid the same amount, but I do 5 times the work that my fellow committee member does, so shouldn't I be paid more? Bruce, if you're tuning in, and I know you couldn't make it today, but you'll probably catch the replay, sounds like David's community might have an answer to that one. So thank you to all of you who have been sharing your thoughts and your comments here with me today. There is more going on there in the chat there. I'll come back around, I think, if not today, then later on, as I like to do over the weekend, to check in on those chats and contribute where I can. One final item that I did want to acknowledge on this topic of recognizing committee members, of recognizing the hard workers in our community. This is not the first time that we have discussed this issue at some length. Those of you who have been in my community for a while now may remember the 2020 Shared Space Summit. Now, this was run online in the heart of COVID territory, lockdown period, September 2020, the world's first online summit for strata property owners. And one of the guests at the summit, if you remember, was Charles Vogel, author from California, United States. All of the Shared Space Summit interviews were conducted online, and my chat with Charles online was all about the art of community. And he is the author of the book, The Art of Community, and his more recent book, which I think we were talking about at the summit, I've still got it all marked up here, was Building Brand communities. And we got into some detail about how we build these really special functioning communities and how we motivate others to participate in our communities. And I have to say, not one time, not one point in that conversation did the question of money come up as a motivator for people who are contributing to their communities. I just want to take you over. I think I've got it open here. As part of our Shared Space Summit, the members inside our community were given a summit playbook and a summit souvenir playbook. And the souvenir playbook summarizes all of the sessions in the summit. You can see there it was conducted in September 2020. If you are a member and you don't remember getting this or you don't have your hands on this, please do reach out to the team or post a comment here on the page and we'll make sure that we can resend you this link to the summit playbook. But I just wanted to scroll down. You can see all of the guests that we had here at the summit. Charles Vogel, who I'm speaking about now, was our first guest speaking on the art of community. We also had David Chandler way back in 2020, who was just fresh in his role, tackling the building defects crisis. He is continuing to tackle the building defects crisis. I spoke to dysfunctional communities and how we might fix broken communities. But this playbook has a summary, which I'm going to give you a little peek at for Charles's session because it addresses some of the issues that we're talking about here today. And I wanted to leave you with some of these action steps. So Charles spoke about the groundwork of building good relationships often needs to happen before there's a crisis. So we need to be getting our communities and our committees functioning and have the right people in place before we need to deal with litigation or before we need to deal with a large insurance claim or whatever it is that might be a crisis for a community. We have to invest in building good communication habits as soon as possible. Not everyone's going to participate equally in any given community effort. You will see radically unequal participation. Protect those who do participate more so they will continue to serve. And I've marked that here as my summit shift. So on each of the summit sessions, there was one thing that really stood out to me that I've marked here in the souvenir playbook to bring to your attention. And this was the one really being upfront about not everyone's going to be that wonderfully hardworking, dedicated committee member. And that's okay. That's not how human beings work. There will be unequal participation. And it's so important that those who do put their hands up, who do participate, who do show that dedication are protected, that they are recognized so that they will continue to the best of their ability and as much as they can to serve that community. Leaders who are seeking contribution need to issue invitations, not make announcements. So it's not making a statement, you should, we need, everybody please. It's about tapping on the shoulder. It's about identifying those new people in the building, new owners, new residents who you think might have those special skills that could be helpful and saying, hey, would you like to come and join us over here? We're doing something pretty special and we think that you might be a great part of it. Making space for the welcome. So since this chat, you would have heard me talking a lot about how important the welcome is in a community. We've since developed a welcome pack that I know our members get good use out of. Making space for the welcome, a time to explain the community's values to newcomers and set the foundation for good communication. So scrolling up to some of these action steps, identify those few people who are putting in the time to lead and serve your community and recognize and thank them. Maybe that's through the payment of a small amount of money. Maybe that's through the payment of a large amount of money. Maybe that's through simply acknowledging them at a meeting. A vote of thanks. How rare a vote of thanks is at general meetings now. I think it's something that requires somebody to remember to do that. And when we all have busy lives and sometimes controversial general meeting agendas, it's something that gets overlooked. Saying thank you to your committee members, showing them some recognition. It doesn't have to be in the form of payment. I think that is a place to start. Now, if you're a member and you want to, a member of our online community, and you want to revisit that Summit Souvenir Playbook, or you haven't seen it because you've joined us less recently than when our summit happened, I think we've got a members only link. Team, let me know. I think we've got a members only link that we can post here to get access to that summit playbook. And if you're not a member and you want to see Charles's session and you want to see those 8 other expert sessions from our summit, then those videos are there for you inside the membership as well as your summit souvenir playbook. So do come over and join us. I think I saw earlier a couple of comments about How do I join? Steph, yes. Steph wants to join David's Strata. Well, David's part of our online community, Steph. So come and join David over in our online community. The place to do that is over at stratamembership.com. I would love to see you there, Steph. Skilling up, as I know David has, and being able to best serve your community with all that long list of jobs that you have to do there. I still haven't seen. Yes, you have said you do have a strata manager. I'm sorry I asked Steph. Steph's saying, yes, I have a strata manager who is useless. Maybe time to look at a new strata manager, Steph. We can have a chat about that. All right. That is what I wanted to share with you here today. I'm just checking my notes to make sure that I have covered what I wanted to cover. Yes, I'm getting ticks here. The role of our committee members. Should they be paid? How are they best recognized? I love hearing from you. I love hearing your experiences, firsthand experiences of what you're doing in your committees and strata managers, how your communities are operating. I'm scrolling down to just to make sure that I've acknowledged. Hey, Robin, I didn't see you earlier. Robin saying, if committee members are paid, does it show up on Treasury records? So yes, it would show up in your financials and should show up in your financials, Robin. Everything should be transparent there as to committee members being paid. Katarina is saying, thank you for all I learned from you, Amanda. You're most welcome, Katarina. Thank you very much. Michael's saying, I'm a building manager of a top place complex in Canterbury. Okay, so a little bit on your plate at the moment there, Michael. Thank you for taking the time out to join us. And some yes pleases there from members who are wanting to access our Summit Souvenir Playbook and our Summit sessions. Excellent. We'll make sure that we get those over to you. Sean saying, thank you, Amanda. Interesting Friday. Look forward to the hot air balloon experience. Yes, so any of you who have come in post starting, which is now, wow, more than an hour ago, I shared my hot air ballooning experience this morning, adventure this morning, and I'll get some photos out for you over the weekend, maybe some video as well. Not a lot of strata buildings in my photos or in my video, but what we lack in strata buildings here in Central West New South Wales, we make up for in gorgeous scenery. So I'll show you some of that. Thank you all for joining me here on Friday Live. It's been so much fun. If I didn't get around to your comment, I'll come back around shortly and make sure that I have acknowledged you and can help you out as best we can to continue to smooth our experience of strata living and restore peace to any community that may be troubled, that may be suffering at this point in time. That's what we're here for. Have a lovely weekend, everybody. I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.